You're listening to your favorite podcast about Flesh and Blood and its community. Welcome to Last Ditch Effort. All right, welcome back to this week's episode of the Last Ditch Effort podcast. I am Maurice, joined by my co-hosts Ralph and Patrick.
Hi Maurice, hi Patrick.
Hey, how's it going?
Very, very good. So, what are we talking about this week?
So this week we have Benning's announcement. Patrick did some predictions last time. He was spot on, and
almost spot on. Huh?
Almost spot on.
Yeah, the color. The color.
Yeah, just the color. We talk about that, and then Maurice gives us his opinion about the bands and the current state of the CC meta. Also, we are in Switzerland. We are heading in to Battle Hardened in Geneva. It's the first Battle Hardened in Switzerland. So yeah, let's, I guess, start with the bannings.
Yeah, let me pull up the article for the bannings here real quick. So, as Patrick predicted quite accurately, the bannings were High Octane and Count Your Blessings Blue. So yeah, I guess somewhat expected.
Yeah, so as I said, like the High Octane thing is, I think, yeah, you can get high rolled and you can still get high rolled by decks, but I think High Octane, this 49 damage turn that we've seen, or 49 plus damage turn from Sam Sutherland, I think that sealed the deal. And it's so funny because you guys know Henrik, right? A good friend. He texted me like, yeah, now the card that crushed your dreams over and over again was just banned. Every top 8 I've ever been, I had to play against mech, and I got nuked out of oblivion from High Octane usually. So I'm not unhappy about this banning. Maybe now I have a chance to convert.
The thing that kind of I don't understand is why they didn't just ban it with the book ban. If they were going to ban it, why wait like another, I don't know, month to ban High Octane? Now, like all the people that bought the Dash Armory deck that got into the game and were like, oh, I need High Octanes. They bought all these High Octanes and immediately they got banned.
Maybe that's why. So everybody was hyped for the Armory deck, and
yeah, but I think it would have been.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
They were saying that they have an eye on High Octane, and I don't think that they had ill intentions with, oh, we have to, I don't know, ban it after the Armory deck release or something. I think they were like, okay, we are aware this is a thing. Let the people brew. Let's see what they can do with it. Yeah, then they were like, okay, people actually do very strong things with it that they might have not anticipated, right?
Yeah.
With the system resets and all that and the processor, because I think if they would have banned processor, right, then there would not be a reason to buy the deck except for the equipment. So I think that might have been the reason why they.
Yeah. So that kind of brings me into the next point. So for this High Octane ban specifically, the reasons they gave, I'll just read from an excerpt here from the article. They say, in isolation, High Octane does not create offensive overlaps. A truism about the Flesh and Blood game system is a permanent that can attack is worth the same percentage of a card when evaluating value per card on a turn cycle basis. There are deeper layers of consideration, such as playing a card expends it from your deck, while activating a weapon typically preserves your card count. But if we look at some comparisons, a weapon attack often provides a value proposition near equivalent to a card worth of value. And then they go into this little further about how the once per turn limiter is missing from the mech cards as a class identity thing. But so the way they're phrasing it here is that if a weapon attack can be roughly equivalent to the value of a card, it is fair to say that being able to attack with a weapon multiple times in a turn can offer value similar to drawing multiple cards. But the problem in my experience, especially with the Dash IO deck, was not that you could attack with the weapon multiple multiple times in a turn, but it was that you could draw multiple cards a turn with the processors together with High Octane.
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in this case, drawing a card or the action point does actually draw you a card, right? Because of processor and not because of the weapon. I would also say, like, if Dash.io hits me 4 times with pistol for 8 damage, I'm all right. But if Dash.io draws 4 cards that they again then boost, that they again then it's just a lot, right?
Yeah. So to me, their reasoning that they've given here is not so honest, I feel like, or doesn't tell the whole story.
It doesn't tell the whole story, but I think it still holds true, right? I mean, because they said it's equivalent of drawing cards, right? This does not mean that High Octane does not enable card draw. It just states that in addition to the obvious card draw thing, here is the reasoning behind from the other perspective.
Yeah, but
and that might have been the deal breaker.
I feel like if you're going that far, you can anything that creates value, you can say is equivalent to drawing a card.
Yeah, like it's true, but like everything that generates value, right? Let's take Awakening, right? Wasn't that the Seismic Surge token card that was an instant that was banned, right? It was banned because it did create an unproportional amount of advantage from one card, an unproportional amount of value. It didn't draw cards, but it was value. If I would say my mental not mental block, my canopy shelter would create as many my tokens as I have earth cards in my banished zone or something, then they would probably ban it super quick too, because it creates an unproportional amount of value per card, and that's what was High Octane was, right? It's like 4 to 6 to I don't know plus action points that all resulted in something. It's not that
it's just the thing that kind of makes it weird for me that they did this was that High Octane was like quite vulnerable of a card. Like, first of all, you can only play it in mech. It's not the same as Art of War, for example, where you can play it in every aggressive deck.
Tome of Aetherwind you can only play in Kano. I mean, I think that is, I don't think that is a big problem. Just because a card is overpowered in a specific deck does not mean that it's not ban worthy, right?
Yeah, for me, the more sad part about like the ban is who does it hurt the most? Like what heroes does it hurt the most? And it's not even Dash. Like, Max is unplayable, I guess, because of it, and Dash IE as well lost so much power. And I think Morris said it's not even the pistol is the problem, but the extra card draw. So for me, the processor print was what made it broken.
Yeah,
and then you ban the other card, which also has the other heroes. That's kind of weird for me.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. In my mind, I think they printed the processor, and what should have happened is that they should have banned the processor, but they didn't want to do that because that was a card that's new and kind of flashy in the armory deck, and that would have been a very like feels bad move, right? If you bring out a product and a week later ban a card from it, that's not a good look.
That is true. I agree.
So I feel like the reasoning they have given why they would ban High Octane is a little bit, maybe not a lie, I wouldn't go that far, but it's not as honest as what I'm usually expecting from LSS, or what they usually also deliver. They're usually very honest about their design choices.
I agree, and if they would have banned the processor, I think the community would have been super impressed by that decision, because you have this new flashy product. It's banning processor is a bad business decision, right?
Yeah, but I also think it would have been a bad decision for the community, because everyone who bought the new deck and got excited to play it now a major reason to play it is gone, right?
Yeah, but everyone who did not buy the deck, who's not a mech fan, right, would be like, okay, this is crazy to ban a card that was just released. We still want to sell those things.
Yeah, but I also think it would have been a bad experience if you have a product on the shelf that is aimed at new players that they then cannot play in Armory, even though it's called an Armory deck, just a week after release.
Yeah.
Maybe they were not anticipating how fast it would actually be broken. And so what could be a possibility to overcome this, right? It would be to hire class specialists for testing of such products, right? If they would have hired Sam Sutherland in the process of creating this deck, and would have given him money and said, break it, and then he would have presented something potentially, then they could have maybe improved the product a little bit or balanced it better. Maybe they weren't just anticipating it.
Yeah, I even think it's not even broken to a problematic degree. It is very good. It's like a very good combo. That goes without saying. But if you looked at the tournament results, there's like 1 or 2 -IOs in like the top 8 of major tournaments. But the same is true for like Viserai and Aurora and most of these other aggro decks that are good, not broken, if that makes sense. So to me, it's not even a question of, the deck was so broken that it would have been a problem for competitive integrity.
That is I get your point, but I think the variance aspect of it was then ultimately potentially a reason why they got rid of it. Because imagine we're going to Geneva for the Battle Hardened, right? I don't know how many players there will be, but let's say we play 8 rounds day 1, and you make day 2 with X2. And then you get paired, whatever you play, you get paired 3 times into a -IO that just kill you turn 2. The tournament is over for you, and those players might not even be in top 8, right? Because this happens only once every 10 games. Then it's just, okay, they did their thing. They're happy. They won against you, and you had 0 leverage, and the tournament is over. So it's a lot of variance that has an impact on people playing in tournaments.
That's the same. That can be like true for almost every matchup, right?
Yeah, it can be, but
to some degree. I hear what you're saying, that like they said, it can create offensive overlaps the way that Zen did back when they pre-book banning, right?
And I'm not saying that Kano is different. We were testing, yesterday? And I played Kano for 2 rounds because people wanted to test into Kano. And then those games were 3 turns. And both of the time I had Wildfire combo turn 2 for, I don't know, was 50 plus damage. And I'm saying that's the same thing.
Yeah.
If you are at a tournament, you get paired into a Kano, and they just turn 1, or round 1 of the tournament, and they turn 1 kill you. You are starting with a big disadvantage, and it was not your fault. You might have AB 4 3 or aces, and you draw into a 3 red hand, and they just kill you.
But I feel like this can be true for any deck. You can run into an Enigma and they find their Transcend right away, play a Miragai right away, and kill you or effectively kill you in 2 turns if you don't find the right, because maybe you draw 2 all red hands and you can't find the pressure to get their thing off the board, and then you also die in 3 turns.
Yeah, I mean, Miragai Transcend, Miragai Pass is like,
yeah, exactly.
That can happen, right? And it's not a nice thing.
It's just, to me, it feels a little bit arbitrary to say, well, high octane is not okay because it creates too much of a offensive overlap, even though it's not oppressive in the format, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get your point.
Want to move on to the next ban?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Count Your Blessings Blue, I'm very sad. I replaced them with 3 Sigil of Solace and moved on.
Yeah, I mean, the Count Your Blessings Blue ban, as I understand why they did it for a certain degree, as their reasoning basically is that in the current decks, there's not enough of a counterplay possibility.
Yeah.
And Poison the Well isn't sufficient for decks to really combat Counter Blessing stack. And I feel like everyone who's played against a Counter Blessing stack with Poison the Wells can attest that that's very true.
Yeah, I can attest that. Like, I played my fair share of Counter Blessing stacks, I think, in the last month.
Yeah.
And I think there was never a game where Poison the Well won my opponent the game.
Exactly, yeah.
It's usually they park in an arsenal for 6 turns, nothing happens. I always hold a sigil or an oasis respite, and then they IP themselves basically for the entire game to then get blown out by an oasis respite. And like, I've had people see me pitch sigils next to the last count your blessings, right? And then they were counting the blessings with me, and then they're like, okay, there's now 2 more in deck, and so there's one, and then there is the one next to the sigil, and then this one you just pitch, and then the next one is next to the sigil, and then they're like, okay, now my stupid Poison the Well is sort of useless. What have I done to myself? And it never feels like you can play around it. It always felt like you can play around it.
Yeah.
If you were a bit cautious. And if they Poison the Well, you're gain 5 in the early game. Usually that's not relevant.
Yeah.
Because the decks that bring Count Your Blessing, that bring Poison the Wells, are the ones that can't kill you fast enough either way, I feel like.
Have you played Count Your Blessing since the bannings?
The Enigma deck I tested yesterday is a Count Your Blessings Enigma deck. But
Okay.
I bored it out in almost every matchup. Because
so it's not that great anymore.
There are some matchups where you do need the life gain to have a good chance, right?
Okay.
For example, Azalea comes to mind. As I played an Azalea recently on Talishar, and they played 8 turns in a row. They played Murkmire Grapnel, and then like those games you cannot win except if you have and find early or count your blessings and sigils and things like this.
So overall, I don't hate this ban. I understand why they said it's necessary, and I personally also just think Count Your Blessings is a really boring card.
Yeah, but I think this is super subjective, right?
So yeah, of course, absolutely.
Blind flipping an arrow of Azalea is what I find super boring.
Yeah.
So if I want to counterplay it, okay, then I have to gain some life. It's the only way, right?
But again, in this specific instance, I feel like Count Your Blessings was not the problem. And the decks that played Count Your Blessings well were a problem. Like, they were already very good decks, and Count Your Blessings made them just even more consistent. But I think
that's why the blue hit was perfect.
Yeah,
it's the heroes that are happy playing blues, specifically MST heroes that then transcend off this thing. I think the blue one was the one to hit. You can now gain 30 off of your 6 Count Your Blessings, which is fair, right? It's not super crazy above value.
It's probably the worst ban for new, because then if you have a Count Your Blessing mirror, now you can't banish the blue Count Your Blessing and play him on your own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this was such a bad decision, but I feel like this one felt to me like they were just kind of hearing the complaints of the loudest people in the community.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah, the decks were definitely strong, and they were real decks, but I feel like there's just a lot of people that complained about Counter Blessings, so they decided to ban it until there's new cards to deal with the strategies, which are apparently coming in the Hunted. So they really just kind of banned it for, I don't know, 2-3 months, and then they're gonna unban it again probably.
I will be collecting like the December Count Your Blessing promos, armory promos. I want to play a set of those, man.
Yeah.
The full art ones. Wow. So good. Yeah, but I think all in all, the bannings shake up the meta enough, I think, that we can go back to brew. And
I think bannings
Does it
didn't
though?
shake the meta up at all. It just made Dash.io not a competitive deck anymore.
Oh, I disagree.
Everything else stayed the same.
I think Dash.io is still a very good deck, honestly.
Still the best mech in the field.
Yes, that might be
like
true.
the mech that was targeted with the banning is still the best mech in the field, and the rest is just almost unplayable.
Almost unplayable.
You can play for fun.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel like for me it did a lot in terms of my preparation for Geneva, and after the bannings, I was happy that I don't have to worry about Dash.io's nuking me anymore.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're an Enigma player at heart, so you just lost a bad matchup, and everything else stayed the same.
I mean, give me back my counter blessings, then let's see if it's a bad matchup. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Let's hear Ralph's most recent post-bannings tier list, and then we'll jump into some of our thoughts.
Okay, my tier list is very simple. It's MST at the top, so Enigma, Nu, Zen, and the rest doesn't matter.
Oh man,
it's a classic Flash and Blood meta. You have the Illusionist, which is good against the option deck Nu, and then you have Nu, which is good against Zen, and Zen is better against the Illusionist again. And the rest around it, like all the other heroes, are maybe in the same space as Nu, where they disrupt, or in the same space as Zen, where they play the more aggressive part. For Nu, you could, for example, take Victor, but why would you play Victor if there's Nu? For Zen, you could take Fi, another ninja.
Ira.
You could take Ira, which is maybe a bit more defensive, more mid-range, or you just pick up any Rune Blade. But then again, Zen is kind of good against Rune Blades because of Zen state. So why would you pick, if you just go from power level on and or you want to play an aggressive deck, a board state deck, or a disruption deck, the MST heroes with the blue count in it, not even the Jarl deck, which is coming out just exactly for Battle Hardened Geneva, it's not going to make any difference to these decks. They all play 30 blues.
Yeah, but so you think Jarl is not going to be a big player in Geneva? You think there will be 0 Jarls top 8?
Yeah, probably.
Top 8 for sure.
I think so. I think MST was this set was so strong. The last set, Rosetta, would be the lighting heroes would be crazy if there weren't any book bannings. But now Aurora is still good. Is a A-tier hero, I guess. With Viserai, Azalea, Florian, maybe Kaio, I don't know. Maybe Dash.io, I don't know. But yeah, that's basically my tier list.
But Jarl can play Earth Tome. Jarl can play Tomes.
Oh, wow. So good, Florian.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with your assessment. I think either Nu or Enigma is the best deck in the format. Between those two, it's kind of hard to say. I think Enigma wins in that direct matchup, right? Like Enigma is slightly advantaged against Nu, which makes me think she's a bit better.
Guess so, yeah.
But then Nu is more consistent against aggressive heroes. What seems clear to me from these, from not just from this tier list, but also from the tournament results that we've seen over the last couple of tournaments, is that the MST heroes are undoubtedly much stronger than everything else in the format right now. And I think we see that from amount of living legend points that they have amassed compared to all the other heroes.
But do you think this is because those heroes and those decks force you to put a lot of blues in your deck that matter, and that's why they're good? That's something that came to my mind. Okay, they all play. Okay, not Zen, but if you ban Sink Below Fate Foreseen now, just hypothetically, do you think Enigma and Nu are still as good as they are? And I would argue, I think yes, because like the blue density is just so high. Every hand is convertible in some way, and you have to be super unlucky to draw into multiple all red hands entire game. And I think maybe some other decks are just greedy deck building decisions, and that's why they perform less. I don't know. That was something that I thought about recently.
It certainly holds a little bit of truth in the sense that I don't even necessarily think it's because of the blue density, because Guardians traditionally also have really high blue density. But what I think is true is that the power cards in all of these decks are blues a lot of the time. But the thing is, the cards themselves are necessarily not even the highest value, but what you can do with them. So like the hero ability and the equipments of all those heroes are insanely broken. Like what you can do with chi is crazy.
Yeah, but you need chi for that. Yeah,
You do
I
need
get your
chi for
point,
that,
like-
but chi also just acts as normal resources. So like even if you don't want to do the thing for whatever reason, but you can kind of see how like broken these abilities are by the fact that almost any time one of these heroes draws a transcend card, one, they can immediately transcend, and two, they always use it.
Yeah, if they say no blocks, okay.
Yeah. So like how often does it happen that you play against like one of the MST heroes and they don't use their transcend card?
Yeah, it's almost yeah. I think another point is you mentioned that all the key cards are blues, which means let's take the example of Nu and Enigma. You pitch your Mira guy, cool. You pitch your Mira guy, and next turn you pitch a Chi, cool. And you have this thing that if you get there, you will get so much value. And the same for you pitch your bonds. You pitch your bonds next to a Chi. You pitch an attack reaction with it, and then it's like, okay, you have this threat that first cycle is just 3 resources that you need to play an erase phase, a CNC, a phantasmaclasm, or whatever. You make the game go long. You force second cycle, and then second cycle is just all the blues you pitched that now are even stronger because a lot of defense reactions are gone and a lot of first cycle threats are gone, and it makes it very hard to counterstack you. Except like the new mirror is mostly the reason why I'm not playing Nu, because I don't want to memorize all this. Where are your bonds? Where are your cheese? When do I activate Nu versus mask? I don't want to do this 5D chess second cycle, third cycle thing. Yeah, the blues are just so strong and so relevant, and I think Miragai is probably the biggest.
Yeah, that's just stupid. Like the comparison about our Guardian has a lot of blues, but yeah, the Mystic heroes have actually really good playable blues. Not even playable, like the cards are just like the levels of enlightenment and Miragai and stuff like that. You could just make a super long list of stupid blue cards, which maybe could be red.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't fit the theme anymore or whatever. But
yeah, I think having a theme around playing red cards, aka the Draconic thing, and blue cards when Icelander was around, right? I think there it worked a little bit better because the blue cards, okay, they were strong, but it didn't. Just imagine Icelander could put a Mira guy on the board.
I mean, it's the cost you pay to transcend, in my opinion, is too low, because most of the time having a 0 block blue is just not that bad, if that makes sense.
No.
You can say that maybe you don't really feel the downside of playing a bunch of 0 blocks in your deck because the upside of doing it is so insane. And then comes the whole other part that, especially if you play Nu, in the matchups where it's bad to play a bunch of 0 blocks, you just board them out. And then you have no downside and you can still do a bunch of really broken stuff with the rest of your deck, right?
Yeah. I agree. Like the MST heroes, they do feel quite strong. But I wonder, I feel like people underestimate Ira a little bit too. Also against Enigma, for example. If they Kodachi 1, Kodachi 2, 4 go against 6 or something, then it feels so tough to actually block that all out, even if you are on Phantasma Footsteps and you have access to Shuko and things like, okay, Shuko, Sen also has access to Shuko, but getting like this one value every turn, can't you just grind out other decks? I haven't played much Ira.
Yeah, I think Ira is just kind of fits into this mid-range pile that some Viserai decks and Florian decks also kind of fit into.
Yeah.
But I think she's just not as good as Florian when it comes to that stuff.
If you are a true mid-range deck in this meta, even if you have like a little bit disruption, but then you get stacked or you get OTK'd by wizards, you might get out grinded potentially by some guardians. I don't know if Jarl will be a thing, but Jarl, Channel Lake Frigid is a card, and Jarl might be able to slow the game down enough to potentially present a lot of evasive damage. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the other part is also that Ira seems to have a decent matchup into Enigma, and I think that's the only reason she's even borderline playable at the moment. But her new matchup is not good. The frailty tokens is a very bad time for the Ira decks.
Yeah. So Ralph, your tier list where everything else is irrelevant.
No,
what do you think of those other heroes, like the Rosetta heroes? Where do you think those fit in?
Yeah, so I think the next best thing you can play is Aurora. She has a decent matchup into Enigma. Like from my perspective, also is fine or even good into Nu, because you have just so much value play and instant tricks. And can be okay into Sen. Sen can be tough if he gets off his token. What was it called? Sen state. At the right moment, when you have the arc lightning out, he's gonna prevent a lot of damage. Yeah, he can be tough, and then if you don't have like good blocking hands, when you don't want to really attack him, it can be a rough matchup. But I think the other two MST heroes are actually kind of fine. Overall, for me at the moment, my favorite card in the game to play is Sigil of Solace. Aurora is a deck that plays it really well with Gone in a Flash. It's a amazing good value combo, and you can also just always tuck it into the arsenal, and there's like all your opponents play CNC, you just Sigil of Solace it out, and stuff like that really just gets your head where he thinks, he keeps a card and he takes some damage to disrupt you, and then he does nothing, right? That's just Aurora has so many plays, even against Azalea as well. And where you think, she gets right in the ledge shot, but it doesn't matter because you play whatever E-Strike for 10 or something like that with instance. So next on the list is Viserai. I think he's kind of good as well, also because of the Enigma matchup. I just played against him, but didn't really test with it. But my guess is that he's a bit... He can get blown out as well by Sen State, which makes Sen a really good choice again, just against the Rune Blades. Yeah. Then we get to Azalea. Still a good deck, but also doesn't block that really well. Can get disrupted quite fast. And probably still has a hard matchup into Enigma as well. Depends on how good the Murkmires, how good she gets the Murkmires off and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's my top competing decks. I know you guys were playing a lot of Verdance, if you're talking about the new Rosetta heroes. What is your opinion about her?
I don't know, Maurice, if I can say that. But like, Maurice approached me recently, or we were testing, and we said, like, I feel like in this meta, often it doesn't even matter what I'm doing, and I just lose. And that's how exactly I felt when I played Verdance, because like some matchups are not ideal, and then you play into a Nu and they banish 5 cards off the top of your deck in a game, and 3 of them are your combo pieces, and you're just so sad. I'm off Verdance at the moment. I think I love the deck. I love the play pattern. I love the play style. I love everything about the deck. But then it feels like there are 3 to 6 cards missing from the deck to make it really competitive. If you compare the specializations from Rosetta to part the Mist Veil. Okay, I can gain 3 and ping you for 3, and then this will potentially also amp 3 or 4, right? With a rampant growth life. Then, okay, this happens once, and you can prevent, like, pitch a blue, and you can AB, and it's not a Miragai. And I feel like they were very cautious with the design of Verdance to make it such that people that don't play Wizard get too pissed off about the power level of the cards. I think with Wizards they're always very, very precautious. To me, the same is for Florian. Like, I love the design of Florian and what it opens up, like the different ways to build Florian. But it feels like it's 1 or 2 cards away from being really competitive. And Auxilio too, but those cards were the tomes. Yeah, I don't know. But coming back to Verdance, I love the deck. I would love to play it, but I think I've lost enough with it that I will most likely not bring it to Geneva.
Yeah, I like Verdance a lot. I think her hero design is super cool with the decompose and the kind of, you are a mid-range deck but have a very, very solid late game plan. With the combo, you have disruption for the aggressive decks. I just think that currently it's not good to play a mid-range deck. And part of that is that I think, again, against the MST heroes, she just doesn't have good matchups into them. Like, the new matchup feels horrible because they can banish your combo pieces and then you have no way of winning. They can also mess up your pitch stack with the shuffling from bonds. The same goes for Enigma, because Enigma can get these game states where you need to just put like a ton of pressure on her, and your deck just fundamentally isn't really designed to do that. So you can end up in situations where they play a Miragai and you can't get it off the board for 2 turns, and then you immediately just lose the game because of that.
I mean, you have Summer's Falls, you can play Scar for a Scar.
Of course.
E-Strikes,
I'm not saying there's no ways of winning that matchup. It's definitely not true. If you just don't find the Summer's Falls for 2 turns, or like you don't have enough decompose for 2 turns to activate it, which also sometimes happens, then you're just too far behind and there's no coming back from it, if that makes sense. Like, even if you do eventually get it off the board, it just feels like you lost 16 life without really making any advancement in the game. And that just comes from, like, sometimes you have to put under pressure, but you have cards like Pots and Rampant Growth that don't do anything in that situation for you, or the gain life cards that you need for the late game. All of your late game cards don't really do anything to put pressure on them. And if you just happen to draw those at the wrong time, you can just kind of lose on the spot.
Yeah. Also, Summer's Fall. The funny thing about Summer's Fall is, like, okay, you play a Miragai, pitch a Chi, attack, and then they play Summer's Fall. Your Miragai
comes back
right next to the Chi at the bottom of the deck. You're like, okay, I saved that for later. And then it's just like, it feels so bad because you know it's coming back eventually. And then you do that twice a game and you're like, already, oh no, they're gonna play 5 Miragais this game. What am I going to do?
Seems like she has the same problems as Florian. Because how are you gonna build this deck so aggressive that they can match Enigma's board state? And if you can't put on the gas, like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I like the Looming Doom tech from Florian, but then there are just too many ways still to get around Looming Doom. You need to burst. Like, it's tough. It's tough. I think it's very, very tough. Yeah, Enigma. It seems like Enigma's gatekeeping the mid a little bit.
It's like gatekeeping fatigue stuff as well, and everything people could play.
It's not just Enigma that's gatekeeping the meta. I think Enigma would struggle if Nu wasn't in the format, because if Nu's not there, then all these aggressive decks have no breaks, basically. And then you just play against Auroras and Viserais and super aggressive ninjas all day long, right?
Yeah, but then she's not even that bad into these decks as well. Like,
yeah, but it's probably not what you want to face.
yeah. So for the last hero from Rosetta, we have Oscillio. I had my fun with him at the Armories last week, and he's got some game, but he's got the same problems. Like if you go to mid range, and you play into another aggressive deck, you can just get smacked. And then like if you play a combo heavy Blast to Oblivion stuff, I guess you can get there, but it's just too random. At the moment, it's more a fun deck to play for Armories instead of taking it to big tournaments.
I want to add, like, I think Reinar is actually in a good spot right now.
Why Reinar?
Because you can just intimidate hands out of Enigmas and hit them so they can't block. You can just get hands out of Nu so they can't block. So yeah, I think Reinar has good evasive damage. So everything blocks
so
3 in the deck.
Patrick is on Reinar for Geneva.
No, I'm never gonna play Brood. I think everyone who has ever played against me knows that.
So here comes kind of like my concern with what we've just talked about. So the Part the Mistveil heroes, basically since their release, have dominated the format, right? First it was Zen, Nu right after that, or like Nu and Zen together. Then after the book bannings, Zen got a little bit less popular, so Enigma was kind of released on the format. None of these heroes are even close to Living Legend. Zen is the closest with 715, but is probably the worst one of those 3 heroes right now. Enigma is at 640 after gaining 550 points just this season alone. So she was on 90 points before the season started. She's now on 640.
Straight up bad deck.
Yeah, by far the most points in this season. And then Nu is on 580, having picked up 200 points this season. So none of these decks are going anywhere, and we're going to be playing with these Mistveil heroes for probably the whole of next year at least. And that kind of worries me.
At least they are cool heroes to play.
Just blast them.
I mean, I personally don't like to play any of the heroes, just like flavor wise, but that's just that's a personal preference, right? I understand the LSS cannot design the game around what I like personally, but it kind of worries me because I don't see how they fix it, if that makes sense.
Easy, more power creep with new heroes.
Yeah, exactly. Like the problem is that I think Transcend is kind of a fundamentally broken mechanic, not necessarily in and of itself, but because of like the things that all of the cards that make Transcend good are so good that it like kind of breaks the meta or like breaks the game in a very unique way, and I don't know how you fix it, because obviously the hero ability printed on the hero is like pretty good for all of them, maybe except for Nu, where it's probably the worst one.
Oh, it's so good late game.
But it's just super good late game. And then the other thing is like, okay, it's not one equipment that's really good. Like all of them have very good chi equipment. So if it's Transcend the Universe, maybe it's the big or the best one, but Zen's chess piece is also crazy, and Nu's headpiece is also insane. So like you can't really ban all the equipment, because that would feel like unprecedented to ban 3 legendaries, right?
Yeah, no way.
You can't really ban the Transcend cards themselves, because then you kind of ban the hero, or like you make the hero ability go away.
But I mean, for like, please, no more bannings, just let it play out.
Yeah, exactly. I actually agree. Like I think you can't really ban anything to make this not a problem. So the only option we have is to just let nature run its course and wait for them to Living Legend. But that's what I'm saying. That's going to be a while. If we just wait, and they're going to reduce the amount of Living Legend points given out per season as well, I think. Or they're going to cap it by season to 1,500 points being given out. So we might be, at least one other season is going to have all 3 heroes. Then we probably might have another season with 2 of the heroes. and then maybe even one more season, which would be, winter of next year, we're still going to have like one of these 3 heroes probably in the meta.
Guess so.
And that's like, I don't know. Do you not see any issues with this? Like, I feel like this is going to be like a little bit boring.
I honestly don't know. We have to see how the new heroes. I mean, it's almost January, right?
Yeah.
Christmas season, and then it's basically new set release. And I don't think I'm enjoying this meta more than, let's say, Lexi meta, or Dromai meta. But yeah, it's a good question. I think I was frustrated with the meta and with my deck choices a month ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was really trying to make Verdance work because I wanted it to be good so bad, because I just like everything about the deck. But then I told you, then I went back, played 10 games of Kano, and then just to reset. And I'm like, okay, actually, maybe I should not play Verdance. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, if none of the decks that you like to play are in a very good spot, and if you still want to compete at bigger events, then I think it's difficult, and there might be more people in a similar situation, right? I don't think it's stale. I think it's, to me, usually it's a challenge to be creative, to find the deck that beats those decks in a unique way. But right now, it seems like there is nothing that really has a good way of punishing those decks, except maybe Dash.io had, right? But then there is this whole other, how aggressive do you want a deck to be? So maybe, I don't know, is Fi in a bad spot? I don't know.
It's, I think this like kind of category that Aurora currently holds is you can kind of slot all the aggressive heroes in and out of
true,
the slot, where Aurora, I think, just does it the best, which is just pure aggression. And all these other heroes that kind of have aggressive game plans, like Fi, like current Dash.io, maybe even old school Dash, they can all perform in that role, but like at that point you're just, maybe you're picking up like some percentage points in certain matchups here or there, but then you perform a little bit worse in other matchups. So then it's kind of, you can pick and choose what you prefer, but they kind of all are just like an aggressive game plan that's vulnerable to new, and to a certain degree vulnerable to Zen, depending on what you play. So like, yeah, Fi, for example, struggles into Zen because of the Zen state tokens.
Honestly, I have the answer for you. Play Vincent.
No, don't do it.
Let's wait what the new set release brings. And maybe Jarl does have an impact on the meta, right? Maybe there is this Jarl build that can compete with those types of decks. We have to see. I mean, if you want to play 2 Transcend cards a turn and you have to pitch an additional blue for it because your Transcend cards costs 1 because of Channel Lake Frigid, yeah, maybe your life is a little bit harder, and we have to see.
So here's like a little bit of my worry with this. I think we can already reasonably predict that Jarl is not going to have like a huge shakeup of the meta, because as a Guardian, he's like, Guardians are in a very bad spot right now because they're bad against New and bad against Enigma, and I don't think Jarl fundamentally changes that dynamic.
That's true, yeah.
So I think he's just going to slot in with the Guardian fans. I think he's going to be a good Guardian, but not better than Victor or any other Guardians.
Oh, they should unban Crown of Seeds. Ooh.
So to wrap it up, MST heroes still too good, Guardians trash. They have to wait till Guardian Mastery Pack and for Enigma to be banned.
But the thing that kind of, I'm also thinking ahead of the Hunted, we're going to have a new warrior, a new ninja, and maybe 1 or 2 new assassins.
All these
warriors have traditionally not been very great against illusionists or ninjas either. Maybe better against ninjas, better against assassins, but not very good against illusionists. Ninjas is just going to be another flavor of aggressive deck, the way that Aurora is now, or
maybe
Zen
not.
is now.
We don't know.
We don't know for sure, but like it's just kind of historically what this class has done. For whatever they have planned for Assassin, we have no fucking clue, right? But if they print more good Assassin cards, those cards are probably also going to be good and new. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's just my outlook on the game currently is a little bit worried, I would say.
I can give you my Kano deck for Geneva.
Yes, exactly.
Honestly, it's so much fun.
Yeah, maybe that's just the way to go.
Both of us rocking up to Geneva with like Kano. No one brings AB.
So what are you bringing now? What are you playing?
I don't know. I've been testing new a little bit, but I just really don't like playing it. And I'm competitive, but I don't like to play decks that I don't enjoy. So I don't really see the point of playing that deck. Same goes for Enigma. I could see Zen maybe, but I don't know.
What about Aurora?
Yeah, same with Aurora. Like I just play some aggressive deck. I don't know.
Yeah, I can give you my Viserai deck.
Yeah. Or maybe I just really play like Kano and say fuck it and see how many people I catch by surprise.
Oh no, don't get baited by me into playing Kano. I baited myself often enough.
Yeah.
But now High Octane is banned, so the mech matchup is easy now, right?
There's no mech, so no mech matchup.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I will probably change 10 more times, so I'm not. I don't even know what I'm playing. I'm putting a lot of time into Enigma and Viserai at the moment, so I don't know.
What would you play, Ralph?
I would just play Aurora again.
Yeah.
Worked out in Worlds.
Yeah, it's probably good. I mean, you played her very successfully, and the bans do not affect that hero at all. So, if anything, other decks got worse, and Aurora had the same power. So, smart decisions.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to this week's show. You can find us on Twitter under the handle @LDFPod. That's LDFPOD. On Blue Sky under the handle @PugWizardPatrick or @SignalJammer. Or you can send us an email under questions@ldfpod.com. We're looking forward to hearing from all of you and hope you tune in again when it's time for the LDF podcast.